Round 3 of the Washington, D.C. region SCCA Virtual Racing League takes us to the red soils of Georgia, about an hour northeast of the city of Atlanta. Carving its way through the countryside, this classic road course retains many of the features that it had when it was built decades ago. It's become the home for the Petit Le Mans, a 10-hour endurance race run annually in the fall, but tonight we're not racing for 10 hours, we are racing at Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. Hi everybody, my name is Kyle Heyer, joined tonight by Connor Horn for round number 3 of the DC Region SCCA Virtual Racing League. Connor, welcome aboard. Last time we were here was at Summit Point just a couple of weeks ago. Bit of a faster, more intense racetrack for better or for worse.
Yeah, much different racing. Summit Point, kind of a compact racetrack. You really don't have a place to really maneuver for passes. Road Atlanta, you have a lot more room to work here. You got multiple lanes that you can try to use, a lot more passing zones, but there are still tricky corners, tight corners like turn 3 that you got to watch out for. This track has pretty much everything. It's going to be a blast.
Got a little bit of everything. We're going to head down to the racetrack here in just a minute and set our qualifying order. And we've got almost 50 cars, 48 to my count, as we head into our third round of the season. We'll have a 12-minute race followed by a 24-minute race to wrap things up for round number 3. Heading down to the racetrack now, practice just finishing up. Left-hand side of the screen, the fastest laps of the day, DJ Alessandrini. Right now on top of the board, we've got 3 different makes and manufacturers involved with the racing that we've got here this weekend, or this week I should say. There are 3 cars, Connor. The Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport, that's the one that DJ is driving. Looks like we've got a couple other examples of different makes and models. Christopher Lapras in the McLaren 570S GT4. It looks like Jack Chrissy is also driving one of those there. They are very sleek indeed. And the perhaps underutilized car, the one currently driven by Caleb Patry in the number 598, that is the Bmw M4 Gt4. So 3 very different machines, all BOP'd to roughly the same pace, Connor, but there's a whole lot of Porsches out there.
Yeah, everyone's really had a big preference of the Porsche, clearly. I think there's only about 2 or 3 BMWs on the field, and Caleb Patry is, I believe, the highest one up in the 10th position with the 125-101, so it's going to be interesting to see if anything really comes of that. I don't think it'll make too big a difference. Obviously, there are differences in these cars, so it will make a difference, but it's all going to come down to the driver at the end of the day, won't it?
Well, you're very right about the differences between the cars, and we'll talk about those once we get into qualifying here in just a moment, but Paul Darling did nip DJ Alessandrini the fastest lap here in practice, a 124.42. But this is just kind of the pre-qualifying. We're not setting the grid just yet. That's going to happen in just a couple of moments. And qualifying, I would say, is probably pretty crucial here this week, Connor, because the field is so deep. 48 drivers. If you start 48th, the chance that you win any of these very short sprint races is essentially 0. So you better get a pretty good qualifying lap and start at least somewhere near the front.
Yeah, you need to at least start in the first top quarter of the field, because it's going to be so difficult to make passes in a quick amount of time, because I believe the first race is going to be 10 laps, second race about 20 laps, 12 and 24 minutes for both of those races each. So you're not going to have a lot of time to maneuver through the field, and you have to work hard to set up passes even at a track like this. So you have to be on your A game in qualifying.
So checkered flag is complete here in practice. We're going to head down to qualifying here in just a minute's time. You're only going to get a handful of minutes to run the fastest lap that you can. You're going to get 15. Now that sounds like a whole lot in comparison to what you normally get. Could be 5 or 10. But look at this. As the field leaves pit lane, it's going to be a very busy place as the drivers pull out onto the racetrack. It's going to take a lot of effort to get your own room to race, Connor. Going to be a busy racetrack.
Yeah, it's going to be very chaotic, as you see literally everyone trying to get in line here. I think it's Paul Darling who's leading the charge, then Pallotta, Burkhardt, Ken House-Seal. Everyone trying to get the perfect position. You don't really want to be too close to someone, but you don't want to be too far off them either, because that slipstream is oh so important.
Yeah, that slipstream following in line with one another to let the lead driver do the work and push the air out of the way. You'll follow in that low pressure area behind. That is mission critical at a place with a long back straightaway like this. This is turn 6 and 7, kind of twin right-handers. Then you head onto this long back straightaway. Here's on board Andrew Pallotta. There is a whole lot of racetrack ahead of you here, Connor. You've got to maximize your straightaway speed. And this Porsche, while it is very dainty through the corners and very nimble, its strength is not in the straightaways. That's where the McLaren and the BMW have the advantage. So it's extremely important to nail that 7th turn.
Yeah, 7th turn, like you were just talking about, it's going to be so important. You make a little bit of mistake, too much throttle there, maybe not enough throttle in a certain place, you're going to lose the few hundredths, maybe even up to a tenth, maybe more. You got to be so crucial, so critical, so perfect for qualifying at a track like this.
Down through turn 12, a several story drop to accelerate to the start-finish line. The first laps being run, one car way off. I think that was Kyle Herbst that had a bit of a moment there off at the exit of turn 12. Christopher Lapras is in one of those McLaren 570S GT4s. Let's ride on board here.
So he's going to navigate, going to try to use this trap to his advantage, but there is a little bit of dirty air, so you got to be careful and take that into account as he goes over the curbs nice and smooth there.
Heading down the hill now. Nail this just right. The driver in front of him doesn't quite get to the apexes very efficiently. It's kind of a rhythm section, Connor. If you get offline on that downhill, it's very difficult to get back online and carry the speed that you had going into it. So if you mess up one corner, it carries to the next. So you got to make sure that you nail those first couple corners in order to carry that speed down.
Yeah, so S is you have to be completely perfect. If you mess up turn 3, it kind of throws off your rhythm, but you can at least recover in turn 4. But if you somehow go a bit too wide in turn 4, then you're not set up for the next one for the right-hander, then you're not set up for the left-hander, completely throws off your rhythm, and you're likely to get a very bad exit out of turn number 5.
So Lapras now down the long back straightaway. Watch the speed on the right-hand side of the screen, 154 miles an hour before jumping down a couple gears. See the quartet of Porsches that are leading the way now. They'll be the first ones to lay down serious times on the timing and scoring. First lap through here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for the DC Region SCCA Virtual Racing League. And 125 flat by Matt Waldbaum is the time that's going to go to the top of the board. No, it's Lapras in the McLaren that goes fastest.
And you know what? That probably comes in part with those two McLarens, Jack Christie and Christopher Lapras. They were hanging off that train of Porsches a little bit, so they were kind of on their own, and they spaced each other out as well. So that was actually, as Lapras goes hard into the tire barriers, that was actually smart of them to lay off those Porsches a little bit.
There's another look at how he got himself into that situation. Jumps the curb and kind of lands a bit funky, then grabs the curb on the other side and gets that tire barrier. We'll have to reset back to the pits to get another clean launch. Jack Christie second quick. DJ Alessandrini has not gone out on the racetrack. That's a bit of a surprise. Usually he's kind of the one to watch at the pointy end of the field, but he might let a couple other drivers test the waters, maybe let the track temperature drop a little bit with the lowering sun before he goes out.
Yeah, he's probably just taking a little bit of his time to learn. And one thing that I think I might have learned is that you probably want to go out with only one other person instead of a whole group. Those group of Porsches, they went about 2 or more tenths slower than those two McLarens that went P1 and P2. By the way, they're only separated by 100th at the top of the board. So I think if you have a partner, it makes a qualifying run much easier instead of just going out with a train.
Like that idea. Have a teammate, a little bit of competition, never hurt anybody. There's Murphy Nichols in the number 11. Team Swelio car climbing the hill, very colorful here this week. Smoketown beer on the side. And heads down the hill, currently P11. We'll see if he'll pick up this time through. And this time it is a 1:26.726. Not quite an improvement. Other drivers to keep an eye on. Evan Schickel, he has not yet completed a lap. He'll be one to watch. Elias Roman will also be one to watch. He is on the racetrack. There he is across the line. And a 1:26.841 puts him 16th best. He'll try to go for more here.
Trying to look at all the trains that are going on around the track. Kyle Herbst, Christopher Lapras, Caleb Patry are right on top of each other. Patry, one of the few BMWs that we noted, only a 26.8 for him. There's a few Pats sort of on top of each other, and a lot of lines of Porsches.
Yeah, so let's go back to talking about the differences between the cars. We mentioned how the Porsche is very nimble. The strength of this BMW is pretty much nothing else other than getting off of the corner and accelerating down the straightaways. It's a straight line brute. The problem is that this racetrack only really has one area where you can take advantage of that. That's at the exit of turn number 7. McLaren in front of him, that is the one driven by Christopher Lapras. This car has a lot of top end. It doesn't have a lot of get up and go, and it's not as nimble as the Porsche, but it really does well at the ends of the straightaway. So those two cars will be fighting, losing time in comparison to the Porsche basically everywhere but the back straightaway, which is where that Porsche should lose time in relation to the other two competitive cars.
Yeah, so we're going to have to see how that plays into it because, like you said, the BMW and the McLaren, they don't have as many, sections where they're going to have a lot of advantage at a track like this. So they're going to have to really kind of wheel a little bit more than maybe the Porsches will have to. So it's going to be difficult for them, to really just try to get this car to do what it needs to.
Oh, Kyle Herbst again struggling at the exit at 12. Patry goes 6th quick. It's a pretty respectable time. Have a look on the left-hand side of the screen at the makes and models. 2 of the McLarens to the top of the board and a BMW in the top 6. So 3 Porsches, 2 McLarens, and 1 BMW in that top 6. And then it's a whole host of Porsches to round out the rest of the top 10.
All the Porsche's kind of ganging up on him, but the lone McLaren just getting it done. Trying to look at the slipstream. Looks like on that lap, Chrissy was behind Ken Seal. That's definitely one of the drivers you want to follow around here, so that played a big part in his lap, no doubt.
I want to have a look at this. Caleb Patry at the exit of turn number 5. We'll be watching this all night. Gets the curb on the inside of 5, gets to the outside of turn 5, and goes for a real big ride. That curb is a great area to gain a little bit of extra racetrack, but if you go too wide, Connor, it can really launch your car skyward and be very difficult to control the bouncing, but Patry was able to hang on.
Yeah, that tire barrier comes up in a hurry. If you go wide of that curb and hit that transition from gravel to pavement, you might do a little bit of a wheelie right into those tire barriers right out of turn number 5. So you got to be really careful on that curb on the inside. It might just launch you into a crash.
Down to 7th is Patry. Ken Seal, one of the Porsches, jumps up to 6th quickest. Best time on the board, a 1:24.83. And still have not seen DJ Alessandrini on track. Here he comes across the line. Is this a flying lap or a warm-up? I think that was a warm-up. So he's beginning a flying lap and chasing a diverse group of cars ahead of him, a BMW, a Porsche, and a McLaren, which might make things interesting here.
And they're getting sort of racy. Everyone's trying to get out of the way, but he might have a bit of trouble here if some car is off. Adam Crandall right in front of Alessandrini, pretty much making this lap a wash.
Yeah, and hit a cone as well, which isn't going to help. Not that it's autocrossing, you'll get an automatic second added to your time, but those cones do make an impact on your speed, even if only for a moment. And he's all crossed up. He's got Paul Darling trailing with him, and those 2 drivers together is not a surprise, even flashing headlights together. Not a big surprise to see those 2 working together.
I forgot the flashing lights was a thing. We might see a lot of that depending on if we see people getting held up like Alessandrini and Paul Darling just did. We'll see if they go another lap. I think they would have reset by now, so they'll probably go another lap and try to pretty much re-rack and restack for this flying lap.
We're watching qualifying for the DC Region SCCA Virtual Racing League. 6 minutes remaining to set our grid for the first of 2 races. A 12-minute race is up first, followed by a 24-minute race. These 2 are the ones we're watching, DJ Alessandrini and Paul Darling, who are sure to be quick, even with the holdup that they had on this lap. I'm sure this will land them top 10 or top 15 somewhere. As they come across the line, what can we expect out of Alessandrini and Darling? Darling goes 13th. Alessandrini didn't quite end up on the board that time through. Perhaps there was some contact, but Jack Chrissie's still at the top of the board in that number 6 McLaren.
Murphy Nichols last time by, he put up a 24.86, so he puts himself into the 2nd position.
It's a really solid lap by Murphy. Lapras down to 3rd, Andrew Pilata 4th. Evan Schickel goes 13th quick. That is one of the McLarens as well. So we're seeing a lot of McLarens that kind of move their way towards the top, although they are getting a bit more spread out now as the Porsches get more laps in.
Kind of didn't expect this at all. We were thinking the Porsches, obviously they have a bigger quantity, but we kind of expected them to have the strength at a track like this, but that's not really so. The McLarens, every single one of them just about flexing their muscle right now.
Yeah, I think also the Porsche might be the easiest to get speed out of, so people kind of flock to it. Drivers after Spa last week were able to make 1 change in their car choice for the season. From here on out, you're stuck with what you got. I'm sure a bunch of people switched to that Porsche because they realized how easy it is to learn and mold it to their driving style. It's not something you can do quite so much with the McLaren and the BMW because they're kind of a one-trick pony, that straight line performance. You can't really mold that around your driving ability quite as much as you can the Porsche. So that's probably why we saw a bunch of people make that change, but from here on out, you're stuck with what you got.
And it might be a little hard for guys who, because there might be a lot of drivers in this field that really switch to the Porsche just kind of because they heard that it was faster. That doesn't mean you're going to be comfortable in it straight away. It doesn't mean you're going to be the fastest on the board straight away. If you were driving, for example, the BMW last week and switch over to the Porsche, you're probably going to be caught out a little bit by how different the car is handling-wise, speed-wise, and how it gets through an apex in certain ways. You got to be prepared for that type of stuff because if you just switch from one car to another, you could be caught out.
That's true. And to the top of the board, Paul Darling, provisional pole, a 1:24.590. The DJ Alessandrini car ahead of him just ran 5th quick, so both of them will launch into the top 5. And see the track clearing up, not quite as many cars out there as there were before, and I think this is by design. Get some clear racetrack, Connor. Can run faster, cleaner laps without as many drivers in your way.
Yeah, Alessandrini kind of played the testing role, I'd say, for Paul Darling there. Darling just pretty much followed him around the track, pretty much how they've been in the past 3 or 4 laps, nose to tail. See if maybe they swap a bit too late. I don't know how much life the tires will have for another flying lap, but they are still going pretty fast, so Darling's going to maybe try and go for an even faster lap.
Into turn 10A. I think Darling still is on a flyer here, using DJ to tow him with that slipstream up and over the crest. They might switch this time through with 3 minutes to go. DJ hasn't yet gotten an opportunity to be the towed car. 1:24.917. DJ Alessandrini goes second quick. That's a pickup for him.
Yeah, that was a big pickup. He didn't need any slipstream really to pick up, so those two go P1 and P2, leaving Chrissy down to P3. Nichols and Lapras rounding the top 5 out.
Here's a new name that we haven't seen, at least not recently. Callan Crocker in the number 46 car up the back straightaway now. Got a very racy household name. I like that a lot as he heads down the back straightaway. Very recognizable livery as well, orange and gray. Hang Loose Racing heading down the back straight. And right now scored 33rd, but hasn't made a lot of appearances here yet in the DC Region Virtual Racing League. So I'm sure as time goes on and as the season goes on, he'll get more confident and competitive up over the crest and completing another flyer.
Yeah, it's all on his own, so this might be just the case. He's just really trying to get more laps on the track right now as he's come across the line. A 27.569, that will not improve him anywhere, and see if he can improve this time. Shallow apex into turn 1, and to be honest, I don't know, did you notice him because did you note him right now just because you saw his car, or did you note him because you just really wanted to say that name?
I really want to say that name. It's just, there's something about it. It just flows off the tongue so well. Callan Crocker. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from him. Brandon Hook just came across the came across the line in the number 88, and he's got a good looking livery as well, kind of martini livery, very classic. Matt Waldbaum on the track, still in the top 10 at the moment. Nice looking Apex livery on that car. And scored 7th. Evan Schickel is out there, the number 33. That is one of the other McLarens. And heading down the hill, and he's going to get one more lap to improve before the checkered flag flies.
One of that surprised me, Alessandrini and Darling, they have not reset. They've just pretty much stuck this one out. Maybe they think that the tires have life even beyond the first 2 laps. This would be their 5th lap together right now.
Yeah, I think the tires on these cars generally don't fall off incredibly quickly. You can run them for 10, 15, maybe even 20 laps before you really start to lose pace. They take 5 or 6 really to warm up to optimum temperature, and I think that's what Darling and Alessandrini are discovering. It just also matters how clean of a lap you can get. Now DJ has fallen in behind Paul Darling to get this slipstream now up the back straightaway, and this is where I think you'd expect to see DJ go to provisional pole in the last 40 seconds of qualifying.
Well, see, he's getting pretty close to Darling here, so this might be a little too close. Probably closer than he wants to be in a corner. Darling's just going to let him go, which is probably the very smart move there, because that would have gotten pretty hairy in the 10A.
Yeah, that was teamwork there. Just Paul giving the slipstream and then not being in the way in the corner. So will pole stay as is with Paul Darling, or will DJ Alessandrini snipe it away? He needs to beat a 1:24.590, and yes, he will. A 1:24.353 puts him to provisional pole in the last couple seconds of qualifying.
We'll see if they go again, but I think that's going to be all the juice they had. Darling's a bit too far off Alessandrini, but you will still get some slipstream. That's probably all she did. Darling is resetting. Yeah,
well, that checkered flag is out on the session as well. Shortened qualifying because of the heat format here as well, Connor, so we don't get to run the cool down moments like we typically do in open qualifying. So the first of our 2 races tonight is a 12-minute race. Connor, you mentioned it at about 10 laps. The predictor says 9, so I guess we'll see who comes out on the other side of that bet. But they're gridded up now for the start of race 1 of the night. And look at the team cars on the right-hand side of the screen. I'm not sure if this was intentional or just really good luck, but man, that is pretty good alignment.
That is definitely not something you planned, so just very lucky for those guys. That's Jameson Huffman leading the charge, Morgan Burkhardt, Caleb Patry, even Evan Schickel kind of trying to get in on the fun a little bit, just not quite.
I have to say, if Burkhardt and Huffman are running it, those definitely are team cars, and I mean, they just happened to qualify in that same row. That's pretty impressive stuff. Let's have a quick look at our weather information before we get into this race. Air temp is 68, track temp is 74, humidity is low for Georgia, 49%, wind out of the west, 4 miles an hour. Going to be a comfortable race, at least virtually here for our first of 2 races here tonight. Quick note on the racetrack itself. Track located in Brazelton, Georgia. Population about 9,000 people. Constructed back in 1970. The area you're looking at right now used to be called Gravity Cavity, and this chicane didn't exist. It was just essentially a drop from here down to here, then came right back up the other side all the way to turn number 11. One of the most fun areas of a modern racetrack. It was reprofiled back in the 90s for a little bit of a safer racetrack. Again, my name's Kyle Heyer, joined by Connor Horn for the Washington, D.C. Region SCCA Virtual Racing League round number 3, this time from Road Atlanta. All right, heading up the hill now. 12 minutes is our first race distance. It's going to go by very, very quickly. 48 drivers on the grid. A handful missed the grid will start from the pit lane. As we come up over the crest of turn number 11 and 12, it's time to go racing here from Road Atlanta. And green flag flies. We're racing into the sunset here at Road Atlanta. DJ Alessandrini, nice clean start as we head down towards turn 1, Connor.
Got to be careful here, maybe through turn number 3. This corner can get so tight, really only barely even a 1-lane corner. So if you see too wide, the admin's really stressed not to go too wide through here. We see what happens though.
So far so good. A little bit of double wide there with a couple of teammates. I think we've made it through so far. We've got one driver off in turn 1. It was Danny Gross that went for a bit of a slide. Otherwise, we are down into turn 5 with the race leaders, Alessandrini, Darling Chrissy. Chrissy is off. He's the driver in the foreground, spinning at the exit at turn number 5. You see the dust go off into the distance.
Well, it didn't look like he hit the barrier too hard, so he's going to lose a bunch of spots, but the car is still intact.
He will go off the racetrack and we'll have to recover as we work through turn number 7 on lap number 1. 2-car breakaway, Alessandrini and Darling. Then it's Murphy Nichols holding up the Ford in third, and a whole bunch of cars behind him all getting in line here, Connor, and now all it's about is slipstreaming and setting up a pass for turn 10.
We've already seen a bunch of people trying to set up those passes. Lappers trying to hold off the Porsche of Andrew Pallotta. Pallotta trying to use a slipstream, but just does not have the run that he needs.
Paul Darling goes to the race lead. In the background, you see Pallotta having a look at Lapras, as you mentioned. Here's Caleb Patry on a teammate. Bit of a bobble in the braking zones. He gets that job done. More drivers side by side. Kyle Herbst really struggled in practice and qualifying with this corner right here, turn number 12. We ride on board now as he's got 2 wide teammates in front of him.
And Huffman's just really going to have to back out there, smooth out of that corner for Herbst this time, as everyone pretty much, other than a few, at least only 2 spins and a little bit of saving going on there. Everyone gets through quite nicely.
Bit of a checkup there from Jamison Huffman as Herbst races him to turn number 3 on the inside now. Are they going to bang doors? No, they do it nice and clean. Herbst will have to kind of follow in the line here as Morgan Burkhardt chases Patry in a very similarly styled BMW M4 right ahead of him.
Yeah, you got if you're going to get the move done early in the race or early in the
Oh,
track,
trouble! Kyle Herbst, big impact. That's a big crash at the exit of 5.
Yeah, it's huge damage. Just going to have to keep it alongside the wall. Not sure what happened there, but once again, just kind of caught out there.
Yeah, it goes a little bit wide, gets airborne.
Oh.
A little bit of contact there with the other Porsche, and that was terminal damage, I'm sure. But riding on board.
Oh, man. Meanwhile, we got to pile up, I think. I'm trying to see what corner that is. I think that's at a turn 7. I have a few cars off there. Everyone trying to scramble by it.
Yeah, a whole bunch of cars off at turn number 7. Well, that was very awkward. Here's the 43.
Oh, they're wrecking down the backstretch again. Faraz Barzinji is around. And also, I'm trying to see what other machine that is. That is Brandon Hook as well.
Man, a lot of carnage there as they sit trackside with some big trouble for a couple drivers in the mid-pack. And that's probably going to be it for Barzinji and others. And for the lead, it is a 2-car tango at the front. Alessandrini and Darling, and Murphy Nichols still holding up the fort in third place right now.
Yeah, a few minor incidents happening here and there around the field. And Murphy Nichols having a really good run so far. Was able to get that third position pretty early on in the first 2 laps, and he's been able to hold it ever since. Meanwhile, like we were talking about, those top 2 are gone, and this is not really surprising at all.
No, not much of a surprise, have to say, but good racing behind him. Caleb Patry under fire, battling with what we believe to be his teammate. That's Jamison Huffman. Whoop, car off at the exit of 5. That's Jeff Barlow. And I'm going to bet this is a very similar circumstance to what we saw with Kyle Herbst a minute ago. Just gets out there. Oh, no, this is different. Gets loose and slides off course.
kind of missed the apex, didn't really get to the curb at all. So in turn, trying to turn it even more, just kind of turned it too far and overcooked it at the same time.
Here's Matt Waldbaum on Murphy Nichols. This is for third place down the hill, and Andrew Pilato watching from behind.
Murphy Nichols not going to give up easy, though. They're going to stay too wide. Nichols still has the inside. If he can keep it in there, he might have a shot. But Waldbaum's got too big of a run, chops off the nose, and he's up into P3.
I heard Andrew Pilato bounce off the rev limiter for a moment, trying to get up alongside Murphy Nichols, but had to back out of it. And here's Evan Schickel running 6th in a McLaren to the tailpipes of this group of Porsches.
Trying to see, I think he is the highest up McLaren at this point, and trying to make something happen as Tyler Sadiq comes out in a bit of traffic there, trying to get out of the way. But these guys really roughing it up for P3, a really good battle. Murphy Nichols trying to recover after getting past there. It seems like if he doesn't recover, he's going to be kind of going backwards here, because it looked like he was really holding a few guys up.
Yeah, Waldbaum is through, and now Murphy Nichols trying to keep the speed rolling. Pilato with a big run now at the exit of turn 5. Going to chase him over to the right just a little bit. This is a run to turn 6.
Jameson Huffman had a big moment there. Murphy Nichols, meanwhile, trying to fend off Pilato, kind of chops the nose of Pilato a little bit. Got to be careful doing that. Those guys won't put up with it for too much longer. As you can see the train forming. P4, I think, back all the way to P8 with Ken Hauseal in the 8th place.
Here's Caleb Patry tucked in behind the 989 of Jameson Huffman, and Colin Daner is behind in the 77. Watch this BMW, even with the slipstream. Daner's going to struggle to reel this BMW in until much later on the straightaway. Meanwhile, for the race lead, they're side by side.
Trying to make it work here. Alessandrini on the curb has the position. They'll stay side by side, pretty much dead even through 11 and 12. Will any of them give? Kind of hard to say. It looks like they're going to stay side by side. Alessandrini hops the curb. Darling's a bit wide. Darling gets the position.
Yeah, Darling will grab the spot back for the time being. We move back to our battle for 4th place now, with Murphy Nichols leading the way. Pilato, Schickel, Burkhardt, Hauseal, 4 through 8. Good scrap here between a handful of Porsches and the McLaren in the middle.
And no one, really, Pilato just cannot get the run he needs to get by Murphy Nichols. And on top of that, he's got to deal with McLaren of Schickel and Morgan Burkhardt back there as well. So there's really not much room for error when he's trying to make
Whoa, big slide!
Schickel's around.
Oh, and off into the gravel trap for Evan Schickel. Was right in the midst of that battle. And the car unstable, that traditional mid-engine unstableness. When you get it sideways, it can be very hard to recover. Gets on the curb, the ABS catches it. And an awkward slide and backs it into the wall. It's going to hurt Evan Schickel immensely.
You could see him when he made the right. He sort of made a swoop to the right before getting into that corner, and that set the back of the car off. And when he tried turning left, it was already going around. Meanwhile, Pilato's got the run for 4th.
Battle for the lead again, though, as they head down into turn 10A, 10B. This time DJ Alessandrini on driver's right. And behind them, the battle for 4th, as you mentioned, continues. Pilato and Murphy Nichols side by side, and I think Nichols can't get the power down quite enough to hang on to that spot, move Pilato to P4.
Yeah, good job by him. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead, Alessandrini got it that time. He's going to give Darling the outside, as Darling is probably not going to go for it because there's not enough time to make that move before turn 3.
Yeah, 4 minutes and 40 seconds to go, so this race is going away very quickly. And now it just becomes a revolving door game at the top of the order here, Connor. You've got to do the math to figure out what position do you want to be in. Do you want to be second going into 10A on the final lap? Do you want to be first? I'm not sure that that is clear yet. Whoa, big crash. Hadjisek. And he's got big time right side damage at the exit of 10B. And this is why.
See what happened here. Makes a big dive. Pushes the BMW out. They come together and it just completely breaks the right front, and then he gets it back going again.
Yeah, it was Sly Stafford that he made contact with as Murphy Nichols loses the spot to Burkhardt in the number 2. Burkhardt will slide into 5th.
Oh, spinner! Trying to see, it's the BMW, Caleb Patry around at a 7, I believe.
Yep, that is turn 7. That's a pretty critical corner under normal circumstances. Let's see what happened to Patry. Did he get some help? No, just gets the left rear tire into the grass. And Connor, that's a really easy way to lose a car, is put that loaded tire into the grass. The car just swaps ends on you incredibly quickly.
Yeah, there's really not much you can do about it. Once you put it in the grass, especially under braking, you're pretty much gone. It's so easy to do as well because you're trying to get sometimes as much track as possible, and that could just, it's so easy to make that happen. You just got to hope you do it in a corner where you have a lot of runoff, and luckily he was able to do that.
So he'll have to recover all the way down from 13th place. Here's Morgan Burkhardt defending from Ken Hauseal. Murphy Nichols down to 7th. trying to stop the bleeding here, but bobble there from Burkhardt. It's going to open the door for Houseel.
Not really a passing zone. He's going to have to back out of that. Burkhardt really hops the curb. Houseel looks for it laying around. Murphy-Nichols trying to get back lost time as he broke his mirror somehow on the right side from my view as they stay pretty much in a train here. Burkhardt, Houseel, and Nichols.
Yeah, that right side mirror is dangling there as Burkhardt runs a little wide. Houseel smelling blood in the water. And ahead of them, you can see a couple other drivers fighting very intensely. This is Pilata and Waldbaum. Give Pilata third spot. Got by Waldbaum a minute ago, and I think Waldbaum's going to try to return the favor here on the backstretch.
You see the weaving going on. Pilata doing everything he can to try to not give Matt Waldbaum, any slipstream, but he really has no choice. He's going to make him go driver's right, though, but this could be a good decision for Waldbaum to take this if he can send it into turn number 10A hard enough.
Into the brakes. Waldbaum around the outside in the yellow and white car. Going to be door to door. Now, usually the outside here is the place to be at 10B because you can get the power down sooner, and Pilata will drive away for the time being as the leaders come now to 2 laps to go out front.
Ken Houseel for the 5th position. He got that done. Kind of went through the grass through turn 11 a little bit there, but he got the job done on Burkhardt regardless.
To move Ken Houseel into 5th after starting 11th. That's a pretty solid climb. Here's Sly Stafford and Jack Chrissy. Remember, he was off on one of the opening laps into the tire barriers at turn number 5, and here he is chasing that very fast BMW. Pops out of line into 10A.
Trying to make it happen here. See if he can do anything. He's going to try around the outside, and a lot of grip to make that move work. So a really strong move for the 22nd spot.
And down the hill again. Started 3rd. This will be a disappointing result for him, I'm sure, but trying to make what he can out of it given the circumstances. Back up to 8th place. Here's Colin Daner flashing the headlights on Huffman. This is for 8th place in turn 6. Huffman denies him.
Yeah, it's hard to make that move into 6. Probably, it's hard to do it in 6 and 7. See the type of run he gets on Huffman here. He's going to definitely have a lot of slipstream to work with. Huffman staying the driver's left.
Looking over the right shoulder of Colin Daner now. Look at the slipstream he's going to get. Huffman with a very draggy setup. Daner's going to pop out of line, and he should have this handily by the time they get to 10A, or at least beat him on the brakes. Here they go, braking battle, Daner and Huffman. Daner's going to win it.
Yeah, Daner kind of squeezed him out. Pretty much gave him no choice but to either concede or crash there. So definitely a pretty gritty move by Daner, but it gets the spot.
White flag is out. Final lap here for DJ Alessandrini and Paul Darling. Darling slides through turn 1, trying to carry as much speed as possible. This is the battle for the race lead.
Both really hopping the curb really aggressively there as they come down through the S's. Alessandrini, when he got the lead, he's been able to hold it. Does Darling have anything left, any tire left, any car left to make this move happen?
Car off on driver's left, a little bit slow there through 5 for Darling. If he can close in 6 and 7, he might have an opportunity, but he's pretty far back. 0.4 of a second is not very close. Last run, coming back to the checkered flag this time through. One more straightaway opportunity. It's 0.4 of a second. Let's see if he's got anything for DJ Alessandrini. I'm going to doubt it here, Connor. He's got a lot of distance to make up.
Yeah, he needed to be a little closer in the slipstream and make a move into 10A. I just don't see him making a big dive bomb bonsai move. If it wasn't a teammate, maybe, but I don't think he wants to risk it, but he's at least a little bit closer.
Here he comes. He's going to poke out a line. DJ's not going to fall for it, though. Nose to tail through the last 3 corners. DJ Alessandrini and Paul Darling. They started on row number 1 at the beginning of this race. 12 minutes later, they're going to come down the hill, and checkered flag waves. DJ Alessandrini, Paul Darling. Nose to tail, duel it all race long, and come home on the podium. Here's Andrew Pilata, who will finish P3. Then it's Matt Waldbaum, Ken Houseel, Morgan Burkhardt, Murphy-Nichols, Colin Daner, Huffman, and Adam Kobach, who finishes in the top 10. Here's some other battles coming back to the checkers. Here's Elias Roman in the 99. That's the Porsche. And Patry in the BMW has to jump on the binders to avoid contact.
Door got slammed on Patry there as he's going to go off risk at losing a spot to Robert Porter, who we haven't talked about. 2 cars with damage. Porter has the run. He's not going to be able to go anywhere with it, though.
David Stern and Alan N side by side through 10B. Here comes Evan Schickel up the inside. He wants one. He wants both. Can he get it done? He'll grab the one from Allen. I'm not sure he'll get Stern's position away, though. P20.
Oh, he's got it. I think he might have gotten it.
Oh, he did. No, he didn't. Not quite. By 28 thousandths, Evan Schickel is 20th.
Very, very close. David Stern just went a bit too far out into the grass, but he was able to barely get the spot.
A couple drivers nursing damaged And bruised cars back to the checkered flag. John Williman, Cristobal Rodriguez comes home 30th. John Jenkins in a damaged Porsche. Brian McRae. And Wojtek Hajicek noted the damage that this car sustained in an accident. He will come home 33rd. A fair level of attrition in that race as well, Connor, unfortunately, but that's the nature of the beast sometimes. Your thoughts after race number 1? That was a wild one.
Well, I'm ready for the next one. Those are my thoughts. That was a very entertaining race. He had moves up and down the field, had a few incidents here and there, but for the most part, a lot of solid racing. And we had some big movers as well. Ken Ausil, 11th to 5th, so that was a big move up the order. Cullen Daner went 18th to 8th in that feature, so a lot of guys going back to front.
So a brief warm-up period here, so we get to kind of debrief a little bit before we head into our final race of the evening. But this gives every driver an opportunity to kind of check things out. If you want to change anything in the setup, you're going to be running a little bit longer now. How much does that change your mindset now that your race is going to be double the distance, or does it change it at all, Connor?
It might make you want to conserve the car a little bit more. You might be making different moves. We saw a lot of aggressive moves in the 10A, a few dive bombs for the most part. You might see less of that because you're going to have 20 laps isn't a lot more, but you're still going to have a lot more time to work with. You have a lot more time to kind of plan out a race. It's pretty difficult to plan out a 10-lap race. 20 laps, you at least have a little bit to work with. You can kind of game plan a little bit for what types of moves you want to make in certain spots, how many spots you want to make up by a certain lap or something like that, how much you want to save the tires, how much tire life you want to save for maybe the last 5 laps, how aggressive you want to be in a certain turn, how conservative you want to be out of a turn or something like that. There's a lot to go into this.
Sun is setting at the beautiful Road Atlanta. Gorgeous afternoon here in the simulator. Another quick weather check here. Should be continuing to get cooler. 68 degrees in the air, 73 degrees on the track temp. Humidity rising slightly as drivers get one more opportunity to shake down their vehicles before the last race of the evening. Next week, we're back at Summit Point where we were a couple of weeks ago. This time, though, with the GT4 cars, which are our championship points-paying races. It'll be the first time that we'll head there in a while with the GT4 machinery, so very excited for that. So, Connor, another thing we learned is that those McLarens are mighty fast, but they are also very treacherous. Do we learn something similar about the BMW?
Was not a lot to see out of the BMW other than they were able to hold their own in a straight line, but we didn't really see Caleb Patry do a lot more. That was the main BMW I was looking at, and we didn't see too much out of him, so we might still need to learn a little bit before we get to the end of this next race about the BMW.
Yeah, I think I noticed something similar, Connor. They just weren't really... they didn't show up to party when the McLarens did. The McLarens were fast, but very difficult to control. And we didn't see a lot out of Christopher Lapras, which was the car I was expecting kind of break the top 5. So keep our eye on Lapras to see if he can climb forward. And obviously we noted the issues for Jack Chrissie's number 6. That car was out of control on the opening lap. Cold tires perhaps striking this car more than most. We'll see if Chrissie can kind of tame the beast, so to speak, for the second race in just a few moments. Big crash at the exit of turn 7 the last race as well on the back straightaway, which is a weird spot to crash, Connor, so hopefully all the drivers have made amends and can get along for this final race.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in the other corners. We didn't see a big junk into turn 3, but like you said, turn 7, kind of a weird place to see it. We didn't really see how the crash in turn 7 formulated, but it carried over to the backstretch, sort of into the turn 8 area, so still don't know how that happened, but it involved at least 4 to 5 cars, so you have to see if anyone tries to be a little bit more patient. That could have been just the product of a 10-lap race. You kind of make some bonsai moves sometimes, trying to get spots where there really aren't opportunities, but just because it's a short race, you go for it. So we'll see if the 20-lap feature instead might put some patience into some of these guys.
Yeah, I think, we didn't quite catch the beginning of that, but you can imagine, any time that you see that yellow flag waving, sometimes in the sim you'll treat it as an opportunity rather than a moment to check up and kind of look out for what's ahead. So when you see that yellow flag, you want to jump on the opportunity to grab positions. And I think that's what created that 5-wide situation on the back straightaway that ultimately led to more contact. So perhaps a learnable moment there. Really impressed with Murphy Nichols' performance in race number 1. He did drop down the order, but still very, very solid performance. And I think he'll look to do even better on the second race.
Yeah, he looked really strong at the very early portion, but it just seemed like the tires kind of just went away, and he really didn't have the pace down the backstretch. We really saw a lot of times when he got overtaken, it was because he was just getting slipstreamed to death down the backstretch, so he might have to make some changes to how he gets out of turn 7. maybe changes of car if he can make those, but he's going to have to figure something out because last race he did look impressive. He had good short run pace, but it seemed like for the most part, Barzinji just had a big crash. But it seemed for the most part for Murphy Nichols, he just really didn't have enough long run pace. It seemed like he just was not able to get out of the corners and use the tire life to his advantage for the long run.
So checkered flag here on the warm-up period in just a moment. And we're going to go for our second race of the evening, this time just about twice as long, 24 minutes. And the start was decidedly less frantic than I thought. There was a couple moments, but for the most part, it was pretty clean and tidy on that opening lap. Barring a few single car incidents. It was 2 or 3 laps in where everyone started to get racy that things kind of popped off. I expect to see something similar in this race here in just a moment. So heading down to the grid now, 18-lap race on the docket for our second and final race of the evening. And we'll head down to the racetrack now and get a look at our grid. Again, set by the way things finished previously. So race 1 results are what grid our race 2, and you'll note that the highest running McLaren is Adam Kobach in the number 85. He will start 10th.
Didn't really talk about much about Kobach. It was really about mainly like guys like Jack Chrissy, and trying to note the other one off the top of my head. I apologize for not knowing, but Jack Chrissy was one of those McLarens that we were expecting to be at the front, but we didn't really talk about Adam Kobach a lot, but Kobach was the highest finishing one. He's up there in that nice blue and orange livery in P10, so we'll see what kind of ground he can make up.
I think the car you're thinking of was Christopher Lapras. He's finished 44th, not the result he was looking for, that is for certain, and has not made it back to the grid yet for this race either. Handful of drivers, Brian Borky, Mark Labance, Ito Waxman, and Todd Rushing aren't going to make it to the grid. Neither will Alan N. As the field begins to roll off now for, or at least in a moment, for our second race of the evening.
Yeah, one thing to note, it'll probably be likely Allison, Journey, and Darling again, but Andrew Pallotta made his way up to P3, Matt Walbaum up there as well. Hal Seals up to 5th, so you might see more players, but it might just be more of the same with Allison, Journey, and Darling.
Well, now with a kind of a re-rack and a re-stack, there might not be any objections to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th place cars being involved in this battle, so they're going to get to go again. Green flag back in the air, race 2 of round 3 of the DC Region SCCA Virtual Racing League is green. And it's a much more frantic and close start here at the front. Pallotta in 3rd. Here comes Burkhardt up the inside. He wants a spot. Not quite enough room to get alongside though.
That goes close to being a very big accident. Everyone tries to sort it out into turn 3. Allison, Journey, Darling, Pallotta at the top 3. Everyone trying to get single file. Sam Scott up the inside of Kobach. They get through cleanly, but just barely, as the BMW Caleb Patry makes his way through.
Heading down the hill now, all line astern. So far, so good. Everybody kept it straight for the most part. Can we do the same through turn 5? Car's running a little wide, but for the most part, well behaved with track limits over that portion of the racetrack. We'll carry it on down to turn 6.
Kyle Herbst had an incident in the S's. He's crashed out yet again, so it's tough to see, but everyone else is trying to sort it out. Contact! Waldbaum's around.
Oh, can he keep it? Can he get back rolling? Oh, he's going to sit it out. That is a frustrating one. I didn't exactly see how he got turned around. I'd like to before we cut away from it entirely. Oh, he had help from behind. The 2-car of Morgan Burkhardt gave him a punt, and that's what sent Matt Waldbaum around. Now into turn 10A. Here's Paul Darling and Alessandrini breaking away. Pallotta trying to keep it tight. And here's Burkhardt up the inside of Hal Seal and Murphy Nichols.
Oh, big crash into turn 10A. 2 cars way into the gravel trap.
I think one of them was Jamison Huffman. And it just happened just out of view, but here's another look at it.
They went flying in there. Under braking, it seemed to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Just a braking miss happened. The 98 car of Sam Scott goes off with them. And I think that was just a braking mistake by Sam Scott. Here's the onboard.
They get into the grass here. He sees room to be outside. He kind of just tried to outbrake him, but kind of just got too squirrely under braking and just had nothing he could do after he made the mistake.
Yeah, he tried to bail out to the rumble strip, and it didn't start soon enough. Caught the grass, and then he was just a passenger from there. Looks like both of them are going to get back rolling again, which is good to see. As we go back up to the front, it's a bunch of Porsches leading the way. The first McLaren is still Adam Kobach, as Caleb Patry has found his way into the barriers at the exit of turn 5. He'll get back rolling after losing a whole bunch of spots.
Have to be careful rejoining too wide right next to him. He's actually just going to reset, I believe. That was close to being an incident. Oh, another car around. I'm sorry, that's Sam Scott at the back spinning again from 38th. trying to see the top two. Darling and Alessandrini battling it out, and look at Andrew Pilata trying to stick with him.
Right, Sam Scott spinning by himself at turn number 5. And Andrew Pilata is decidedly joining the party here for the front 3.
He's doing a good job. He made his way up to P5 in the last race, and he's looking to try to use that pace here. Maybe try to catch the top 2. Because we saw Alessandrini and Darling trying to maybe play nice with each other. They might not have time to play nice. Pilata's going to try to rough them up.
Well, pretty easy to tango with 2 around Road Atlanta. You add that third, and that's a variable I'm not sure that Alessandrini and Darling want to work with. They're working together tonight, but Andrew Pilata is not really aligned with them. So I don't know if they want him to become a part of that kind of 2-car tango. So they'll try to break away if they can. I'm not sure that they're going to have the opportunity to do that, though. There's Elias Roman up to 10th. Dennis Barrett just behind. Jack Chrissy. There's that McLaren. And Evan Schickel, for that matter. So 2 of those McLarens on a nice recovery from race 1 crashes.
McLaren's kind of doing a decent job. They're in the middle of a train right now. Chrissy, 3 wide, getting by Elias Roman, who just had a off from 10th position. As look at this train, 2 by 2 into turn 6 and 7 right now.
Good battles there. Move Jack Chrissy up to 10th place. And Evan Schickel not quite as fortunate to grab those positions as easily as Chrissy did, but still in the hunt. Andrew Chow and Robert Porter doing a bit of a dual battle down the backstretch.
Yeah, Porter had a really tough moment, almost got contact with, I believe that was Schickel, so that was almost an accident out of turn 7 yet again, but they keep it straight. Christy and Dennis Barrett getting really close for, I believe, the 10th position, 2 wide there. A big send in the back by Porter on Andrew Chow, but they will keep it clean. Schickel a bit of a bump to Elias Roman there.
Here's Schickel smelling blood in the water here with Roman right ahead of him, riding just over the shoulder of Schickel. Down a gear and then right back to throttle. Turn 1 is such a commitment corner. A couple different lines being taken into turn 3. Barrett slightly defensive. That will put him offline at the exit. And Schickel a little bit more conservative through there. Might give up a little bit of ground.
Doesn't really matter if he gives up too much ground. He has ground to work with. It's about a second and a half maybe to Andrew Chow in that 14th position as he leads a train of his own right there. So no harm, no foul. Just trying to gauge what the 2 in front of him, Roman and Barrett, are going to do, as we might try looking close to 3 wide. Do not want to do that in any part of the track here.
Wow, Schickel just forced that door open. Elias Roman tried to slam it shut, and Schickel slammed the foot in before he could get it all the way closed. But now, at least for the moment, it's shut, not locked, as Schickel stays right behind Roman on the back straightaway with the slipstream and the advantage of that McLaren and the 7-speed gearbox that this car and the BMW have as compared to the 6-speed gearbox in the Porsche. That'll help the acceleration a little bit, and through goes Schickel into 12th.
Nothing Roman could really do. Meanwhile, Dennis Barrett kind of left the room for a little bit. Schickel will try to get back to him as those 3 battle it out still for the 11th position. Trying to look back at the top 3 right now. They are still sort of under a bracket. Alessandrini and Darling right next to each other. Pilata kind of laying back a little bit. Might be losing touch just a little bit. 4th and 5th not too far back. Ken Hauseal and Morgan Burkhardt back there.
Jamison Huffman nursing a pretty damaged car after getting involved in that collision at turn number 10A. Here's Tom Reynolds and Marcus Montenegro. This is a great-looking McLaren. How about this, the number 71 Marlboro scheme on it, chasing Tom Reynolds in that kind of highlighter green number 32 Porsche.
Sly Stafford off. Bit of a risky spot to rejoin in turn 3, but definitely a nice livery going up through there.
Good scrap here. Stafford running one of only 2 BMWs in the field tonight. 2 or 3. There really wasn't a whole lot of them. None in the top 15 right now.
Look at the scrap. Looks like a bit of a line in turn 6 and 7.
Trouble for Jeff Barlow at the exit of turn 5.
Ooh, that's a tough place to be. Got to be careful rejoining. Not much you can do.
Yeah, same thing that got him in race 1. Just gets out loose.
Whoa, someone just spun right behind him, almost spun into him. That was Sam Scott yet again in turn 5.
Yeah, again, it seems to be, as we'll watch Sam Scott spin as well, it seems to me that these McLarens are just very unstable on the curbing in particular. And Scott goes again for another loop.
Yeah, I was going to note that in the warm-up. That's been the trouble spot for them for sure. It's like the back ends just don't have the downforce they need to get through there at the speed they need to. So it's definitely a struggle. If they were pretty strong around the entire track, but turn 5 is such a huge weak point, and it's costing a lot of them.
Yeah, your car is already under compression there, so your suspension's travel is pretty limited. So if you slam it onto the bump stops or get the car airborne at all, it really doesn't like landing. So that'll get any car. The Porsches like to bounce a lot in particular, but if you don't have as much suspension travel, you're going to find yourself in trouble. Here is Peter Lauzon in the 20. There's a bit of contact. He's going to spin.
They're both going to go into the grass here out of this corner. Gotta be careful rejoining. Perez Barzingi's also spun around. He's backed up out of turn number 1. That was risky.
Back up front now. DJ Alessandrini, Paul Darling, and Andrew Pilata have broken away. Now Seal is to 4th, past Morgan Burkhardt, but a lot of ground to make up, and I'm not sure that he's got the pace to go run down those race leaders. Half a second slower last time by.
And Pilata was also losing touch. That wasn't what you were talking about already. Pilata lost half a second to the top 2 as well, so Pilata might have been trying to push his stuff a little bit too hard, trying to stay with those top 2. And right now, Alessandrini and Darling starting to put the pace back up.
Good battle here between Murphy Nichols and Colin Daner, 2 youngsters in the DC SCCA. Nichols on the defense right now, trying to hold on to 6. This would be a solid night, 2 top 10s for Murphy if he could just hang on.
Yeah, he's got a big gap to 8th place. Adam Koback is back there and still losing time to them, so shouldn't have to defend too hard. He might still want to because 6th is better than 7th, obviously, but there's not much he can defend with. Murphy Nichols much slower through the S's here. Daner trying to find a way by.
Just got a little offline and got a bit awkward there, and now Daner's going to have a really solid run. Nichols goes defensive. Daner's going to have to go the long way around into turn 6. Here they go.
Ooh, Paul Andrews off up ahead. We'll see if he can get out of the way. He's going to be in the apex at the wrong time for both of these guys. Actually gets by the apex, gets some drivers right there to let them by.
So now Daner's got that slipstream again. You mentioned Adam Koback a minute ago. He is lurking back there in the blue and orange McLaren, just at the back of that shot. Kevin Zhu in the 243 is also in the mix. We haven't really talked about Kevin tonight. Driven through the field, started 12th in this race up to 9th. Very colorful livery on board that car. It has a little bit of ways to go before he'll be involved directly in any particular battle, and he's got Jack Chrissy behind him to defend from in the meantime.
And Chrissy's made his way up all the way from 22nd. He's made his way up into the top 10, so a big, strong run up through the order for this specific McLaren, as he's got a few more to pass, a few more he can pass. He's got definitely a few more positions he can get. Meanwhile, Nichols giving the inside to Daner through turn 1.
Yeah, this is going to be dicey heading up the hill. They don't really like passing in this area. It's just so challenging to happen cleanly here. As Chrissy and Kevin Zhu are going to give it a go. Chrissy down the inside of turn 3. Zhu is going to have to give way now, move Chrissy to 9th.
That was a very strong move by Chrissy to hold it in there, and also a strong move by Zhu to hold it through there. They went too wide, none of them went off, and they didn't hit. So that was very, very hard clean racing.
Headlights flashing on Colin Daner's car as he's frustrated with not being able to get around Murphy Nichols. Here's Sly Stafford and Justin Huffman. Huffman in the teal and red car, Stafford in the green BMW.
Look at this race right now. Stafford's had a few off, so goes a little bit wide there as well, trying to get to Evan Rosenberry, but he's gonna be kind of at Justin Huffman's mercy here. This is all for the 20th position with 19th not too far up the road.
Checking back up front still, Alessandrini and Darling nose to tail. Pilata's dropped about 2 seconds off of that battle for the race lead. And Ken Halseal is slowly nipping in to Andrew Pilata's advantage over him. He's got Morgan Burkhardt tucked right in behind. I think Burkhardt knows that the ceiling is higher if they work together, and they seem to be doing just that.
Battle for 8th, Koback and Chrissy right next to each other. Chrissy's gonna go to drivers right here into turn number 1, see how much they battle. Chrissy pokes the nose, but doesn't go in there. Now he makes a move, Koback just lets him by.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot worth defending there. If he's been paying attention, he'll know that Chrissy came from all the way back from 22nd place. Not really much reason to hold him up at this point. If he's caught you from that far back, he's gonna pass you anyway.
Kevin Zhu really hopped the curb through turn number 3. He's got another McLaren behind him, Evan Schickel, making his way up sort of through the order. He's came from 20th up to the 11th position, trying to get himself in the top 10. Whoa. Zhu's wide, hops it a little bit. was able to control it, but not before Schickel gets by.
Yeah, Schickel, again, is one of those cars that struggled with handling of this McLaren in the first race. Now that he's got it down a little bit better, moving forward, Kevin Zhu struggling with curb jumping a bit. And that's one of the challenges with this Porsche, is it corners so well that you can really get to the apexes, but you have to respect the curbs around here. They're tall, they're significant. You really don't want to be hammering them in the S's. In 10A, 10B, 11, 12, okay, but you don't want to get to them so much in the S's because they will unsettle your car and throw you off your rhythm.
Yeah, it's really, you just really have to be careful. Like you said, corners so well. Those curbs can kind of just come out of nowhere. You're not thinking you're going to hit them too hard, and then you slam them, and then you're absolutely completely out of whack trying to get to the exit, trying not to throw it into one of those tire barriers. So you got to be so careful.
Up front, 3/10 separate the race leaders. We are halfway through this final race of the night. 10 minutes and 50 seconds to go. Both the front runners attacking the racetrack, well clear of third place. They're all on their own. Move back to Elias Roman and Dennis Barrett's fight. This is for 12th. Barrett closing in.
Barrett's kind of been there for a little bit, gained about 2/10 last time by in that sort of plaid-looking Porsche. Not sort of plaid, it is plaid, so he's trying to make the move here, sort of a shallow entry and shallow exit to turn 5, trying to keep it smooth, while Elias Roman tries to work really hard to keep him behind.
Sly Stafford, again, we've talked about him a couple times tonight. He's under fire from Justin Huffman still. Kevin Zhu just had a crash and is back in pit lane. That's how fast it happens.
Coming from turn 6, I believe, here. Just misses the corner.
No, there was something wrong with this car. I'm not convinced it didn't have a tire go down or some kind of suspension damage.
That's a
Watch this.
odd one.
He just hits the brakes and it just doesn't steer. It gets into the tires.
No lockup, no tire lockup.
Well, you wouldn't. I mean, you wouldn't lock it up. I think that he jumped the curb and damaged the suspension, and that's what caused the car to go off. Either that or he just got in there way too hot, but he braked at a normal point, so a peculiar one from my perspective.
Yeah, that was definitely an odd one. Not sure what could have really happened there. I didn't see any suspension break. I'm trying to look at it again from my point of view, but there's really nothing present. Like you said, maybe some sort of suspension, but he is definitely likely to be out of this one.
Trouble for Adam Koback, and the McLaren was running inside the top 10, and this time finds the wall, and I think it's after a bad bounce in turn 3, lands a little bit funky and spins, and that's a pretty hard left side impact. So Koback will have an uphill climb to do now after that contact. Again, this McLaren so fast and so capable, but so on edge in comparison to the Porsche, which loves to be thrown around and really beaten into submission. And that seems to be why people have flocked to it over the other two cars.
Sly Stafford, who was in that sort of scrap we saw for 20th, he was actually pretty decent incident. He got loose out of turn 5, brought Justin Huffman into the tire barrier with him. Also, Tom Reynolds spun behind him, sort of a chain reaction out of turn 5, which we've seen a few of those.
Morgan Burkhardt in the number 2, pops out of line into turn number 1.
I'm sorry, I thought it was Burkhardt, not Burkhardt.
It's Leviosa, not Leviosa. Into turn 3, side by side. How Seal hangs on.
That's such a gritty move, trying to make it work through turn 3, but it might be even grittier to keep it out there when someone trying to make the move into turn 3. It might be a more difficult decision to try to hang it around the outside. How Seal's able to do it.
On board again with Dennis Barrett, watching Elias Roman out the windshield. Saw the big counter steer even before he got to the curb at turn 3, knowing the car was going to step out on him. A lot of lifts in the S's, though, not feeling the confidence in the higher speed sections.
Whoa, contact Dana and Murphy-Nichols. They finally come together, and it's in turn 6.
Oh, that was pretty heavy contact, too. If they get away without any damage, that's going to be impressive. Here's a look at the replay.
We kind of saw this coming. They were battling hard. I was look at the squeeze from Murphy-Nichols. I was about to note how Dana, wow, look how close they came to those tires entering turn 6. That would have been a disastrous crash.
Yeah, that was a bit of, I think it is. Murphy-Nichols has significant damage. And
yeah, we
probably should have just let that one go at that point.
Yeah, I was about to know how Dana had finally gotten back to Murphy-Nichols. There he goes, spinning into turn 10A. Watch out for the stack up that could happen. as Colin Dahner's lost his left mirror, and at the end of the day, he's not even going to get the spot, and Dahner has significant damage. He's going to pit as well.
Well, no one's going to win that race between those two. They're both probably mad at each other, but they're both going to lose, unfortunately. But that was, you know, I think we had seen Dahner try to get by Murphy Nichols a handful of times and wasn't able to be successful. Sees the door open, goes for it, and Murphy just keeps coming, and didn't give it up, and that's where that clash happened. Two drivers trying to be in the same area of the racetrack at the same time. That doesn't usually work out very well.
And two drivers not willing to give an inch as well. That's never going to work out. And we keep saying again, I know I kept saying it, but we saw that coming. They were battling so hard. He was getting held up a little bit by Murphy Nichols, and it looked like Nichols sort of had an off in turn 5. And not that maybe that Dahner didn't get to him, but Murphy Nichols might have had an off and was trying to defend because he didn't feel like he deserved to lose a spot in that way. So that's the kind of stuff that's going to happen when you got people sort of desperate to make a move and desperate to keep a spot.
Here we go, battle for the lead again, heating up as some lap traffic appears on the horizon, and a whole bunch of it. Paul Darling on the attack into turn number 10, coming to 5 minutes and 30 seconds to go, which means about 5 laps remaining here in this race, as there's the traffic they're about to have to navigate, and there's those two race leaders.
We'll see how courteous guys like Adam Crandall are and Brandon Hook to these guys. Darling's been behind Alessandrini the entire race. I'm wondering if Alessandrini has been kind of using his stuff up to get through, and maybe Darling's been letting him push his stuff a little more while he saves, or maybe it's just Alessandrini trying to play a little bit of game with this team.
I'm not sure that these guys really end up using any more tire than anybody else. They're able to drive the car so smoothly that they don't really give up a lot in the name of tire slip, but this is going to hold up Alessandrini here right at the exit of the corner. But Darling is going to have to go the long way around at turn 6, so I'm not sure that he gained a lot there.
Yeah, it didn't really gain anything there. Might have been a bit of an incident. Adam Kovac through 10A sort of had a little bit of an incident. Spun off. I think he got hit by Callie Crocker. Had a bit of a stacked up in 10B.
On the back straightaway again. Now Alessandrini will have some slipstream. That'll help for a little bit. But intermixing with lap traffic always makes things dicey. It's always a little bit less predictable than racing people on the lead lap. Headlights flashing on the Darling car.
Alessandrini is going to have the entrance to the corner he wants. Paul Darling, not so much, as it does close in on the braking, but probably not the entrance he wanted.
More traffic. McLaren up next. 4 minutes to go, 4 laps to go here at Road Atlanta.
Sam Scott off in 10A again, having a rough race. Meanwhile, the race for the lead still getting intense. Darling, not sure if he's going to be able to find a way around Alessandrini. He hasn't been able to really battle at all this race, really. We saw a bit of battling between them in the last race, mainly in the final sector, but just they've been in a line. I don't know if Darling can get enough of a slipstream on them.
Well, they only pay out points and the checkered flag for the last lap, so I think Darling might be thinking big picture here and not wasting tire and opportunity as McLaren runs wide, and they're going to squeeze by. Here comes Darling with a big run on Alessandrini. This is probably not going to get him anywhere, though, on the outside.
Yeah, that was a tough spot for Alessandrini to catch up. Arzingi there had to really let off for the exit. Couldn't go as wide as he probably wanted to. This might be the spot. Darling might have enough of a shot with slipstream.
Yeah, he's going to be there. It's just a matter of can he hold it once he's alongside? Can he complete it? That's the other question. Which side does DJ take? He's going to want drivers right. Darling will take drivers left. You actually kind of want to be on the right here until you get to the exit of turn 10B. Then you kind of want your choice of lane to get the power down, but Darling on the brakes a little sooner. DJ should be able to carry this here, but now look at the outside. Paul Darling's going to get the better run, and he should be able to clear Alessandrini. He does. 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. 3 laps to go.
That's a crucial move, and that was all set up by Barzingi going a bit too wide in turn 5 and messing up Alessandrini's exit. That move came completely from that, in my opinion, and that was a huge move to hang it around the inside, then around the outside for Darling.
And moving back to Burkhardt and Hausiel for 4th.
Leaders Rodriguez in the way through turn 3. That could have been dicey. Sorry about that, but Rodriguez kind of in the racing line here, right in front of Palada now.
Awkward moments for everybody here as we head down the hill.
And now this is going to make the battle for 3rd very tight. That lost Palada a lot of time, and Hausiel and Burkhardt are going to get close behind him now, but now Rodriguez is in front of them.
Good battles everywhere, but for the lead is the most volatile. Here comes Alessandrini again on Paul Darling.
He could have gone to the inside there, but he's going to be smart and wait and get as close on exit as possible to get back to Darling. Now it's going to be up to Darling. Basically, where does he want to defend? I'd say driver's left. I don't think he can really be beat too easily if you say that.
Well, driver's left, as long as you can roll the speed through the first corner, you're good to go. But DJ's going to have enough of a run that he's probably going to be able to choose that he wants driver's right, and he will choose that. And he's done this move a million times here in every different car combination. He backs out a little early. He's going to try to build a run for corner exit. Here it comes. Not enough power down, though. Doesn't have the torque on the uphill that a GT3 car does. And this time through, we're coming to the white flag here, Connor. Last lap around.
Yeah, I think he thought Darling would go a little wide and he'd have the run to go to the driver's right through 11 and 12. White flag is out. He's trying to dart right. Trying to dart left, almost went off track trying to dart a certain type of way. Does he try to make a move up to turn 3? They almost come into contact with each other. He goes to driver's left, no room there. He gets the door shut.
Yeah, that was just trying to make Paul Darling fall for something there. I don't think that was a real pass attempt. He's going to wait to the back straightaway. That's his best opportunity. In line now, heading down the hill. Darling clambers over the curb, so does DJ. Through 5, builds a nice run here. It's all going to come down to this last straightaway and 10A, 10B. It always does. And it's just a strategic battle of where you place your car and how late you can brake.
Well, we got Morgan Burkhardt and Ken Houseel flashing lights, but the battle's for the lead. What is happening back there doesn't matter right now. Darling, not much he can do. He's kind of at Alessandrini's mercy here as DJ is so close, getting that slipstream. Darling's just going to have to send it into turn 10A, probably a little harder than he wants to. Alessandrini trying to force that mistake and make the pass at the same time.
Yeah, sitting duck is Paul Darling. Does DJ try the left? No, he's going to try the right once again. Does he have a bigger run this time? I think he does. Now it's on a braking battle into 10A. Side by side, they bang doors, they touch. Darling on the binders for 10A. DJ's going to sweep over to the left. That's a great move here. Up the hill now. Darling's going to slam the door shut. 2 corners left. Turn 11, turn 12. Checkered flag waves here at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Paul Darling hangs on it. He's going to win race number 2 in a last lap dash to the checkers. What a battle to the checkers in the end of the race.
An amazing battle. Did not expect them to make contact. That was awesome. Pallotta gets the podium spot. P3 Houseel 4th. I think Burkhardt is... I believe he's going to come across the line 5th. Didn't see him come across the line, but he did get 5th.
Checking back a little bit deeper in the field, this is Adam Koback and Tom Reynolds. This is a fight active for 20th place right now. And the closest one on the remainder of the lead lap. There's Reynolds in the green Porsche and Adam Koback in the orange and blue car. We will go back. We will watch the tail end of that lap. There's Koback a little wide at a 7. Reynolds is going to get a pretty good run. Does he have damage that is going to prevent him from slipstreaming back up to the McLaren? I think he might. Just a little bit.
Yeah, he's still going to slipstream, but I don't think it's going to be enough unless he wants to make an extreme dive, which I wouldn't expect. Murphy Nichols, noting him, he's still going to come home 14th.
That was a solid run for Murphy considering the circumstances. Adam Koback, Tom Reynolds, the last couple corners, the last 2 drivers on the racetrack, racing to the very end. Checkered flag waving. There goes Marcus Montenegro, and Adam Koback will finish 20th. Tom Reynolds 21st. Now let's go back and have a look at the finish between those 2 race leaders because it was a wild one. I got to go back a little farther than that. As they came down the hill here, we're going to watch this in slow motion and how it formulates here, Connor, because this is excellent driving by both of these drivers. A little bit of contact there heading down the hill. Here's another look at it. Which driver deviated first? I think this was both of them coming together here.
Yeah, I'd say so. You see, Darling tried to come together to squeeze him to driver's right, and then he got Alessandrini trying to kind of make him go a bit more shallow into the corner. They just came together trying to defend one another.
Yeah, then DJ moves over to the left. This is a fantastic move, and could he have gotten back to the throttle just a bit sooner, he would have been able to carry that speed up the hill. But riding on board with DJ, this is what he saw now coming down the hill. This is an exciting moment.
I think he just turned in a little bit earlier.
That's what it was. He downshifted into 2nd gear, and that's what cost him that time. Had he stayed in 3rd, he might have had the momentum available to be able to do something about it. But that was an excellent run to the checkers. Here's one last look.
You see him, he gets the move. No room for drivers left. He has to go to the right side, and then he's trying to keep Darling to the left. They come together a little bit. This could have been catastrophic had they gotten suspension damage, but neither of them do. Darling a bit too deep there a little bit. He's able to swap it back. Tries to do an over-under once again, but just doesn't have the room.
Yeah, Solid
run up to the line.
and solid defense by Paul Darling. That is not an easy task to hold DJ Alessandrini back, especially at this racetrack. So, with all that said, here is a look at your race results here at Road Atlanta. Paul Darling wins race 2. DJ Alessandrini, Andrew Pilata, Ken Houseel Morgan, Burkhardt finish in 5th. Then Jack Chrissy. How about the rebound for him and Evan Schickel in those McLarens? The struggles in race 1 end with top 10s in race number 2.
Yeah, Chrissy came for 22nd. Schickel came for 20th. Definitely some of the hard chargers of the race did a great job getting through the field and keeping it clean while doing it.
Looking down the order here, Andrew Chow in 11th. Colin Daner is the winner of that fight between Daner and Nichols. It was a violent one that came down to some crash damage, but they both finished top 15. Tala Sadiq up to 18th after starting deep in the field. And we documented the issues for a couple of these other drivers. Sam Scott, troubled night in that number 98 McLaren, and hopefully he can get that thing under control and wrangled, because he'll be real fast, as he always is, once he can get that car under his command. Down the order some more. Peter Lauzon, Danny Gross, Kevin Zhu, all with crashes in race number 2. And we've documented a couple of these other drivers having some problems. But a well thought out battle amongst the front runners there, Connor. Some solid racing.
Yeah, this track is so good for racing with these GT4s. That's what I learned. This is an amazing track. And one thing, I wish these races, at one point, I love how they're so short because it brings out the best in drivers and a bit more aggression. But these races, if they were just a little bit longer, it'd be awesome to see the amount of racing we can get, because these things are a blast to watch. And these drivers are a blast to watch. This is an amazing display of racing.
All right, well, we got 2 of our race winners to talk to. We've got DJ Alessandrini, who won the first race tonight, but we're going to talk to someone else first. We're going to talk to Jack Chrissy, who came home in 6th in his McLaren. Jack, it was a battle all night long tonight, fighting that McLaren. Race 1 didn't go so well. Race 2, though, went better. Take us through your night and trying to challenge yourself in that McLaren 570 SGT4.
I mean, it was a tough one. I mean, the car's about, I don't know, 2 or 3 seconds off, or 2 or 3 tenths off the pace of the Porsche. So, just in general, it's already a hard race. So, we don't got the front end that those cars do. So, yeah, I mean, qualified 3rd, ended up losing it coming out of the S's. Car just grabbed on me, and yeah, at that point, you're just a passenger. So, backed it in, had to basically run from the back in the second race, pushed myself up to 22nd. And yeah, that last race was kind of a shocker to me. I didn't expect to be able to push that far up. I think I got some luck on some guys making some mistakes and stuff like that. I think on the first lap, I made some kind of sketchy moves and able to get like 4 or 5 people off in the first, like maybe 10 people off in the first, like 3 laps. So got a little bit lucky there. Got a little bit lucky in traffic. Just some luck on that. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the result. I mean, coming from 22nd to 6th, can't complain with that.
Nice, solid result for Jack Chrissy. Comes home P6 in race 2. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, thank you.
Move on now to DJ Alessandrini, who won our first race of the evening. And it was sort of a 2-car tango up front all night long, DJ, but some good fighting, good battling there with Paul Darling. You guys worked together in qualifying, but once the green flag dropped, it was all bets off. Take us through your night.
Yeah, I was happy with my pace tonight, and me and Paul were working together, as obviously anybody could tell that. So in the beginning of the race, we were kind of just working together, trying to get a nice gap, and at some point, you know, the cooperation ends and the gloves come off, and in that second race, Paul just managed to get the best of me. I think some of the lap traffic opened up some opportunities. I almost lost him from the draft, but like I said, those lap cars, you know, they just became a factor, and that's just racing.
So amongst these 3 cars, they all have their unique differences, but next week we race these cars at Summit Point. That track can be a lot harder on tires than a place like Road Atlanta. How do you feel like that's going to go for your Porsche specifically?
I feel like the lap traffic is going to be even more of a factor there, since the track is significantly smaller than Road Atlanta, and it doesn't give you as many good opportunities to get by cars and for lap cars to just not affect the race. It's going to be very tough for them. It's going to be tough for the front runners to manage that. But I don't think I've ever driven a GT4 car at Summit. I tend to like Summit. I tend to be quick there, but not familiar with the combo. But I'm sure I'll have a strong showing.
All right, DJ wins race 1, second in race 2. We'll see you next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
Moving on now to Paul Darling, who is the race 2 winner, and it wasn't by much, just over a tenth of a second, Paul, fighting DJ in race 1. Learned some things, had some lap traffic go your way in race 2, and then the defense back to the checkers. Take us through that last lap, banging doors and trying to beat DJ back to the line.
Yeah, DJ got a little screwed over by some lap traffic there, but I felt a little bad taking advantage, but that's racing, so you have to. Going into the final corner, I guess, turn 10. Since I'm on a single screen, I didn't realize he was pinching me as tight as he was, so I ended up drifting over a little bit. That little bit of contact seemed to unsettle him a bit. I thought our wheels were going to pop off like they have a tendency to do sometimes. But yeah, I was surprised I was able to hold it there. It was a good race in the end.
Well, wheels didn't pop up, but the racing did, Paul. Fantastic run at the end. A little bit of argy-bargy there, as Calvin Fish would say, but all in the good name of fun. Congratulations, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much, Kyle and Connor.
All right, with that complete, Paul Darling is your winner of race number 2, and I thought it was funny. Paul is a very humble guy, and had the laugh that he said that he felt bad that he leaned on DJ just a little bit. But Connor, that's racing, and that's what it takes sometimes to beat the best, is to get out there and lean on people a little bit. Your thoughts on both the races tonight?
It's just a blast all around. Road Atlanta, such a great track for these cars to race at. We saw a lot of racing in corners that we expected to be side-by-side. We saw some side-by-side racing in places we didn't expect to see it, like in turn 3, for example. We saw the weakness of the McLaren sort of arise in turn number 5 specifically. We saw the BMWs kind of weren't able to flex their muscle at a track like this, and obviously the Porsches were definitely strong. DJ Alessandrini was definitely strong as well as his teammate, Paul Darling. Those two, class of the field, no doubt about it. No one could really touch them for both races, and it showed in the final results.
Checker flag on round 3 of the DC Region SCCA Virtual Racing League. We'll see you next week at Summit Point for round number 4.